Hi everybody, this is Mark from Mark's Mandalas, and in this video I am going to follow the instructions for two different brands of epoxy resin and make a small clear coaster. I have the molds right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and mix both of these as per their instructions, which I'm going to put up on the screen as I get to each version. And we're just going to go ahead and let them cure and check the results and do some comparisons. Let's go ahead and get started. The first one I'm going to do is the Art Resin. And the Art Resin, this is a 16-ounce set, two 8-ounce bottles, one of resin and one of hardener. And let's go ahead and I have to do a little bit of reaching around here just because I have lighting in the camera and stuff in front of me. And I'm going to go ahead and put the instruction sheet up here for a moment, and you can come back to it and you can pause it. And let's see, I just got this. Let me go ahead and get something to open this up because it's still sealed. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I got this opened. I also removed the film on the top of the hardener as well while I was doing this one. So as for the instructions, one of the first things they say is to have a level surface, and I have a level right here that shows this. My working area is level, and you can look at the bubble right there. And I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way since I know that this work area is level. Let's see here. Now it mentions as far as measuring by volume. I am someone that measures by weight, and since these are both the same size container and weigh the same amount, both bottles are equally full, that they're going to have the same density, so there should be no problem in measuring this by weight instead of volume. With volume, I find that if you use a separate measuring device and pour it out, there's going to be some leftover in that measuring device, and so I think that measuring by weight seems to be the most accurate in my experience. So that's how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go ahead and put my cup on here. Now both resins I'm going to go ahead and measure out. I think I'm going to do 90 grams. So it's going to be 40 or 45 grams of resin, 45 grams of hardener. This is a different ratio from Max CLR. I'll explain that when I get to that one. But for this one, I'm going to do 45 grams and 45 grams. And I'm going to turn on put the cup on there and turn on the scale. And now I'm going to go ahead and pour this in. Okay. I actually have 45.3, so I'm going to go ahead and zero this out, and I'm going to add 45.3 grams. That first part was the resin, this is the hardener. Okay, yeah, I'm not really a fan of these bottles. They've got drips off of both of them. So anyways, I thought that would point that out, and I am 0.2 over on that part B. So I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to try to add 0.2 if I can. It's kind of difficult measuring this out. Be very small amounts. Well, I'm going to be within 0.2 grams on this between the two of them. So I've got my resin measured out. Now, as per their instructions, they want me to mix thoroughly for at least 3 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and turn the scale off and get this out of the way. And I got a timer over here. And I'm going to be, it says to also make sure that scrape the sides and the bottom as you go. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. And I'm going to mix for at least 3 minutes. Okay, it's actually been 3.5 minutes. I wanted to go a little above because it says at least 3 full minutes. And I, with either of these resins, you don't want to stir real vigorously because it's going to introduce more air bubbles into it. So you want to be somewhat methodical with it, and you do want to scrape the sides and the bottom while you're stirring. Occasionally scrape off your stick and then scrape that off of the inside of your cup that you're stirring it in. And now it says to go ahead and pour it, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pour it right into this coaster right here. And I have some extra in there, but that's okay. This is for the demonstration. I want to make sure I had more than enough resin in there. And there are a fair amount of bubbles in there, but that's to be expected. That's not uncommon. And it's going to be sitting for several minutes. I'm going to go ahead and begin doing the Max CLR resin while the air bubbles on this one come to the surface, and some of them will pop. And then I'm going to go ahead, and they recommend the use of a torch to pop the bubbles, which is completely fine. You do want to be careful with the torch, but anyways, once I get to that point, I'll hit that with the torch, and then that part will be ready for just to sit there and cure overnight. So let me go ahead and get started. Actually, let me go ahead and stop watch for right now. Now let's go ahead and get going on the Max CLR. Okay, let me get the scale back over here, and I'm going to get the cup on here. Now, one of the things that is different is that Max CLR is a 2-to-1 ratio. You'll notice that one container is larger than the other. It's 2 parts resin to one part hardener. And so in order to get 90 grams, I'm going to do 60 grams of part A, which is the resin, and then 30 grams of the hardener. Get the stir stick out of the way. I'm going to turn on the scale. Hopefully don't block the view while I'm doing this, because like I said, I am working around some lighting in the camera. I feel like there's more control actually with this little spout that they include. 60 on the nose. And let's put that back up over here. Sorry if I'm bumping the camera. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zero this out. So I have 60 grams, and now let's bring this around again. Oh, you know, something I forgot to tell you about is the temperature of your room. Ideally, you want it in the low to mid 70s. And I wanted to show you that I'm actually performing this demonstration in the appropriate temperature zone. I think you can see that pretty good. It's like we're at about 74 degrees right now where I'm doing this. So I wanted to show you that I have everything in ideal environment. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to go from this side here. I'm going to do 30 grams of the part B. I went 0.3 grams. So I went 0.2 grams variance on the Art Resin between part A and part B, and I'm going to be 0.3 grams more hardener than resin. And so that's pretty similar as far as not having it to the exact fraction of a gram. So that's the 2-to-1 ratio. I'm going to go ahead and turn the scale off and get it out of the way. And now they recommend stirring this for 3 to 5 minutes. I'll split it down the middle, and because there's another difference between these two as well. I also don't mind as far as don't have to worry about this curing before I take care of the bubbles. There's about, they say there's about, I believe, 44 to 45 minutes working time with this resin. The working time on the Max CLR is 50 to 70 minutes, so they both offer plenty of time to do most projects. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start the stopwatch for the first stirring session. Okay, that's been 4 minutes, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the next step that they suggest, and it's actually a very important step. In fact, I'm going to put a link to a video I did recently on the difference between this cup and this cup after doing a resin session. And what you want to do is you want to pour the contents of the cup the resin is in into a second container. And you do not want to scrape this first one out. You just want to let this drip out as much as possible. And the second stirring, I'm going to stir this for another 3 minutes, and that's going to help fully homogenize this resin together. And like I said, I am following the instructions of both manufacturers here. So this is what they are recommended for Max CLR, and I've gotten great results with it. And that's good enough. I'm just going to put this cup aside over here now, and I'm going to stop the stopwatch, reset it, and I'm going to stir this for 3 more minutes. Okay, that's been another 3 minutes. I'll go ahead and stop that. And what I'm going to do is, I normally like to let the resin set for about another 5 minutes or so, let some of the air bubbles, I don't know if you can see those in there, let the air bubbles, some of them rise to the surface and pop. But instructions on both of them do not specify that, so I'm just going to go ahead and pour this into the other coaster mold. But first, I'm actually going to move this one, I'm going to move this one forward. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit here if I can. Also, something I really need to point out is, you'll notice I'm wearing gloves. I always wear rubber gloves when I'm working with resin. You always want to have adequate air ventilation. Eye protection is not a bad idea. Wear rubber gloves and do your projects in an area you're not worried about damaging something like an antique table or expensive carpet or nice clothing that you might be wearing. So beware of all those things in case, because accidents do happen. So now let me go ahead and try to zoom in, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see the bubbles on that or not, but I'm going to go ahead. It's had a nice amount of time to have a lot of the bubbles come up to the surface, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a butane torch that I have. That's how they recommend to get rid of some of these bubbles here. And I think I'm going to zoom in a little closer so you can see these bubbles pop. Okay, now we just gotta, and you want to make sure you keep your torch moving all the time. I hope that's picking up on camera. Those bubbles are popping very nicely. But you got to be careful that you don't burn the resin. If you keep it stationary too long, you could burn the resin or you could burn the silicone. So you want to be very careful when using a torch to pop those bubbles. But as you can see, that did a great job. And now I'm going to go ahead and zoom this back out. And after we can see me, I'm just going to go ahead and pour this. The same, and I'm going to let it, I'm going to pause in the video here in a moment because I'm going to let this sit for about the same amount of time and let the bubbles rise to the surface. And then I'm going to use another method that I like to use. You want to make sure you have very good ventilation, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be spraying acetone over the top of this. So you don't have to worry about burning anything, it's going to evaporate, but you do have to be careful because it is acetone. You want to have very good ventilation, be careful and don't get it in your eyes or your skin. Read the warning on the the container of acetone that you buy at the store. And I'm going to go ahead and pause this, but I'll be back in just a moment to go ahead and I'll zoom in and I'll spray the bubbles on that one, and then I'm going to cover these up and let them cure overnight. Okay, we are back. It's been 8.5. Actually, I started this a little bit after I walked away, so it's been closer to 10 minutes. And I was going to use the acetone, but while I was waiting, I'm trying to make this as equal as possible, and both instructions do mention the use of a butane torch. So I'm going to actually go ahead and torch these bubbles too. I don't want to skew the results by having a flame to pop bubbles on one and acetone on the other. I don't know if it's going to give one an advantage over the other. I don't think it would, but just to keep things consistent, I'm going to go ahead and torch these bubbles. And I'm going to zoom in here. And there were a couple small other bubbles that came into the surface on this one, so I'm going to hit that again and get those bubbles, and I'm going to come back and check on this other one as well after the fact. But for right now, let's go ahead and get these bubbles taken care of. A couple others that were in there. And just like that. And so I am going to come back again. I'm not going to record it, but I'm going to come back in about another 15 minutes or so, and I'm going to check on both of these and see how they're doing. But in the meantime, I'm going to cover both of these up, because you want to keep any kind of dust or a bug flying around, or if you have any small pets that get up on tables or something, just to avoid anything getting in there, to put a cover on there if possible. These are going to be kind of what's kind of nice by having a little bit leftover resin is you can kind of check how the cure is coming along by moving the stir stick. In this case, I'll zoom out a little bit more. I'll try moving the stir stick and see how it is, and if it feels like it's fairly solid in there, I'll touch the resin in the cup with a gloved up hand, because if it's not cured, it's going to be sticky. So anyway, that is it for right now, but I'm going to go ahead and come back tomorrow, and we're going to pop these out of here and see how they came out. And that will be it for after I do that. That will be the end of this video, and then I'm going to start doing some comparisons between both of these just to see the similarities and the differences between them. So anyways, hang on, it'll be just a second. It'll be tomorrow just like that. Okay everybody, it is the next day, even though it's just been a couple seconds on the video. And these two coasters have been covered and curing all night, as well as the leftover resin in these cups right here. The green stick is for the Max CLR and the orange stick is for the Art Resin. The coaster on the left is for Max CLR, the one on the right is for Art Resin. And let's go and take a look at the leftover resin in the cups. I had mentioned before, these are a good reference point to find out if this feels like it's fairly cured, and it is. And I've already actually went ahead and poked it with a gloved hand, and they both feel like they're safe to touch with a bare hand. Let's go ahead and take a look inside here. These are pretty darn hard. So let me go ahead and zoom in here, and let's get a close-up look at what that looks like. And that was the Max CLR, and here is the Art Resin. I hope those are both in focus. And I'm actually going to, oops, see what happens if I pull on the stick on this, and so far it feels very solid. And let's try this one. Also feels very solid. So that's good right there. Now is the moment of truth. Let me zoom back out here. And about there. Let's go ahead and remove this lid. And it's still in the silicone molds. Here they are. They both look good. They both look pretty darn clear of air bubbles. And let's go ahead and pop these out and see what happens. This is the Max CLR coaster right here. And break this loose all the way around the edge first. And kind of a quick initial exam of it. I think it looks great. Let's get close up here. Okay, and we'll put that down. And now let's do the Art Resin. Break this loose all the way around. That's where I keep bumping the light that's holding my camera. And there is this. I think they both have nice clarity to them. I am curious as far as, I don't think either one is fully cured yet, but I'm wondering if I can bend either one of them. But that bends pretty easy still. I don't notice it's not tacky at all, so that's good. Let's go ahead and lay this down so it lays down flat, and it should self-level out again as well. Now let's see if this one can be bent. It can be, but it's, boy, that's a lot more setup, which, you know, that's okay though. I mean, as far as generally you want to give a few days for a full cure anyhow. Well, let's see here. I mean, so far I think that they're doing fairly well. This one is a little more set up than this one, but they're both set up nicely so far. They both have good clarity. I'm not a fan of the bottles not having the spout like these ones have over here. You see there's a paper towel underneath here because I moved them last night, and there was a ring of resin and hardener underneath each bottle because it had run down the side when I stopped pouring it, and I had to clean that up, and I was not a big fan of that. But that has to do with the container, not the resin, and we're just doing a side-by-side comparison of the resin. So that is this stage of my resin comparisons, and so far nothing is really standing out noticeably, one being far better than the other at this stage. This is just the first of the comparisons. I do want to touch on the price though, and I think that's where there is some separation. I believe it's the Art Resin 16-ounce kit is $40 on their website at the time of this recording, and $45 on Amazon for the 16-ounce set. This is the 96-ounce set of Max CLR, and on their website, I believe it's about $84 plus shipping. And on Amazon, I think it's about $101 with free shipping. And so value-wise, I think there's tremendous value with the Max CLR. You're getting about 6 times as much resin at about 2.5 times the price. So that is just one difference I've noticed so far, but I look forward to creating some more videos that are going to be shorter than this one, but to do some comparisons between the two, and you're going to be seeing these two coasters getting used for some experimentation. I'm going to write a letter A or put a sticker on here of like an A and a B, or the brand name or something so you can tell them apart, because right now they look very similar. So that's all for right now. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and this is Mark from Mark's Mandalas. Until next time, rock on.